and thanks for joining me for another episode of Here's What I'm Watching, which is this case a Here's What I Watched, and I talked about once before, but now I'm going to talk about it a little more in detail, and that is the first episode of Downton Abbey for the new season 5, I believe. Yeah, it seems like it should be season 5. So I hope you've seen it. I'm not going to hold back. This is going to be spoilers galore. So if you haven't seen it yet and you want to be surprised about anything, turn it off. Uh, okay. First of all, let's start with the family. Obviously, Edith had the baby girl, brought the baby girl back. The cooperative couple have sort of adopted the baby girl, which I'm really not sure. I know it was a long time ago, but that works. I mean, you can just have a child in your home that you don't really have the birth certificate for. Maybe they do. What's on the I don't know. So, but apparently it works. Okay. And then she's a lovely little child, and of course Edith loves to go over and see her and sit with her, and that makes perfect sense. So there's that's going on. Now we have a problem because the wife of the family that adopted the little girl is thinking that Edith is making a play for that husband. Have we forgotten that Edith did, in fact, sort of make a play for the farmer who owned the tractor that Edith could drive? So apparently Edith has got a reputation for this behavior, and that she's just going to have to deal with that. But now she and the farmer are going to come up with a way to explain Edith's fascination with his, oh, I just have no idea where this child came from, adopted daughter. So that'll be good. I mean, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially if Mr. I went off to Germany to get a divorce guy comes back, which he very well could. And then it's going to be like, oh, well, now what do we do? Because guess what? We got a kid and she's hanging out over at this farmer's house. And of course, now we'll just go right through that whole situation where the housekeeper, remember the housekeeper that had the baby boy that she couldn't support, the housekeeper that got knocked up by the serviceman, and then the serviceman went off and got killed, and then the housekeeper went to work or the house, anyway, you know that whole thing with the housekeeper and the baby that she gave to the serviceman's parents, and there was crying and a terrible separation situation. And I think we're going to see that again with the little girl if Edith and Mr. I went off to Germany to get a divorce, if that guy comes back. And then they're going to want to take that little girl away from the family that she's been living with, and there's going to be crying and all that stuff, and it's going to seem like deja vu because we went through this with the housekeeper and the little boy. One of the things with Downton Abbey that I have noticed is we get these repetitions. For example, need I mention that both Sybil and Matthew died the same day their children were born. So sometimes those things pop up and are a little repetitive. Okay, moving right along. Downstairs, we have Mr. Carson who feels the sand beneath his feet shifting. Something along those lines. We have Daisy who is trying to steady numbers. I think Daisy is really considering becoming her own, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming her own boss. And that will be great fun if we see Daisy go into that direction, get confident and go into that direction. So I'm kind of hoping for that. And then Miss Patmore, she's going to be back there still, cooking in the kitchen, and they better have somebody else on deck to fill in Daisy's spot if Daisy does move along. Mr. Bates and Anna are still married, still together at this point. Bates hasn't been hauled away to jail again, still childless, so this may be something that will develop this year. Now, we got to see the children. We got to see little George and Sibby a couple times. We got to see them coming in for tea, which, Lord grant them, is such a poop about being a grandpa. How could he not? I think little Sibby is adorable, and considering she is the daughter of his daughter, who's no longer alive, but he doesn't want to be around her because she calls him Donk. Well, he is a Donk. Little Sibby, adorable, and a genius. So there's that going on. Then we have the whole thing with Tom sort of having some feelings of being torn between his aristocracy family and his true feelings about being a socialist. And then, of course, we had Sarah Bunting show up, who must be teeny tiny. Because, I don't think any of those women are what we would consider to be tall, and they're all a good head taller than Sarah Bunting. So Sarah Bunting showed up and caused a ruckus. And this is the thing that I mentioned before that I really had a question about. I just have a hard time imagining this young woman who, for all we knew, she's grown up with sort of a sense of awe about what actually went on in that abbey. And she has the opportunity to be invited there for a dinner. And she feels so comfortable that she's making those comments. Now, I'm not saying I disagree with anything that she said. I just think the characterization of it just doesn't ring true to me. So I could definitely see her doing what went on in last season, where she asked to go and see the house or the abbey, and she went up on the stairs so she could see what I could definitely see, because a young girl growing up in that community would have that kind of curiosity and fascination with what in the world is going on the inside of that big huge building. But to talk the way she did at the park, I don't know. I just had a problem with that. Then I really enjoyed the whole thing with Violet, the Dowager Countess, thinking that maybe she isn't ready for Isabel to advance socially, so she's trying to stir the pot a little bit. And then invites the doctor over for tea, and Pratt won't serve Pratt. Is it Pratt? Well, you know what? I'll look it up. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. Then we have the whole thing with Mary. Does she want to marry this guy, or does she just want to fool around with this guy? What does she want to do? Well, Mary has done some fooling around pre-marriage, and we know that she didn't get pregnant from it, whatever she was up to, which was never fully described. So so she knows a little bit more than she's letting on, and I have reason to believe, I've heard through the grapevine, that there is going to be some continued conversation about the use of birth control this season. Now, if you remember last season, the woman that came in to be the lady's maid for Lady Grantham, she's not called Countess Grantham, Lady Grantham. She came in and she seduced Tom while he was in a state of drunkenness, and then Mrs. Hughes knew that she probably hadn't got pregnant because she had bought this book that had advice on how not to get pregnant. So anyway, just the whole thing with Mary, I'm going to make a prediction based on some of the things that I've heard, that she is going to ask Anna to purchase something, and then word's going to get back to Bates that Anna has purchased whatever, which is going to pertain to birth control and not getting pregnant, and then Bates is going to be like, oh, so you don't want to get pregnant, and that's going to be a thing between them, and then they'll get mad and won't speak to each other for 3 episodes, because, we haven't seen that before. So that's going on. That's the deal with Mary, and I think it would be fun. I think it would be interesting to see Mary truly out there courting, out there investigating her options. Now, let's go back to Edith. So I know due to the war that there were a lot of young men that were killed, and we don't really know since the whole shock of the pregnancy if Edith has gone out very much, but really, Edith is so repellent to the community that she doesn't get any offers. Are we really going to believe that every other man in her age range is either dead or married? And I just have a problem with that. I just want to say, lay off Edith. Give her a glimmer of hope. Give her something that she can be happy about. So we have that going on. And speaking of not being happy, of course, we have the whole Baxter Thomas thing, which I'm just getting a little tired of the whole, Thomas, who is so evil that he sort of has the whole Snidely Whiplash thing going. And sometimes, not that I see Thomas making changes, but after a while with that, remember he started haranguing Baxter for this information back when Edith's baby was a newborn left in Switzerland. And now she's easily a year and a half, if not close to 2. So it just seems like a long time for Thomas to every day go up to Baxter. You better tell me what you know. It just seems like it's a little. However, back with Baxter and Mosley, the Baxter Mosley story, I'm enjoying because I enjoy Mosley. I adore Carson. I can't get enough of Carson. And the moment when Carson is informing Mosley that he needs to take steps, Mr. Mosley, take steps, or he would not be allowed to continue working upstairs until something happened with the hair. That was my favorite part of the whole show. I think the overall tone of this episode was good. We had a little setting up future storylines. We had a little intrigue. What's going to happen with Mary and this guy? Are they going to go on this trip? Is it going to be scandalous? Then, of course, we had the fire situation. We know that Jimmy's probably not going to be around because he got canned. So we're going to have some new staff come in. We could have a new kitchen maid. We could have another footman come in. I think it's going to be a fun season to watch. I'm looking forward to it. And, of course, I'll be back with more. Here's what I'm watching, Downton Abbey. Thanks so much for joining me.